Hey everyone, it's Ellie and welcome back to my channel. Hi everyone, so today I am going to talk about my D&D journals. I got like one or two people asking me about them, and for me that's good enough. So we're going to go ahead and take a look at some of the journals that I use for D&D. I'm currently in two campaigns, one that is run by a friend of me and my husband's, and then one that's run by my husband. So I'm going to go into three different types of journals here. This is my like regular messy like nonsense notes that I take while we're in the middle of a session. You know, when a bunch of stuff is going on and you don't really have time to jot down everything, you just kind of write down, oh, that name sounds important. So you write that name down, and that's kind of it. That's kind of the only thing that's in there. And then I have these journals, which are the ones that I'm gonna mostly focus on, which are my, I guess, like story notes journals, where I haven't caught up yet, but my goal is to have them basically almost read like the story of the campaign. So I listen to the audio recordings because I do record our sessions, and I just go back and take a little bit more detailed notes of the things that are going on, more of like the role play aspect and all of that's going on. Don't really get too deep into the combat, and I'll explain why in a second. I'll show you why when we get to this one. But I have started working in both of them, and I will just show you how I started setting everything up and how I want the continuous like setup to go, essentially. And I will definitely keep people updated as I start catching up. It's just going to take me a minute to catch up because in my friend's campaign, we're on like session, I'm sure I've said it before, but we're on like session 25 or 26 or something like that. And each session is about 4 hours. In fact, the last session we did was 6 hours. So it's a lot of material to cycle through and to jot down. And then my husband's campaign, it's a lot faster paced and it's shorter, but we are still on like session 5 or 6. So there's still a lot to catch up in. Again, same like 4 hours a piece for every session. So just getting all the notes down is taking me a minute, but I am having a lot of fun with it, and it's been a joy to do. And this last journal here is actually my husband's journal for like his Dungeon Master journal for his campaign. So I actually can't look at too many things in this one because obviously I'm in the campaign, so I don't want to spoil myself or anything, and my husband doesn't want me to look at too many things. So he marked some pages that we can look at, and I'll explain how he tends to like mark things up and write things, at least as far as I know anyway. All right, let's go ahead and get started. I think we'll probably start with, I guess we'll start with the regular campaign notes. It'll be quick. I'm just gonna like breeze through them a little bit, and then we'll get into the main ones. All right, in this one, again, this is just long form, like mattery kind of notes. This is actually an old campaign that we're not playing anymore, but we had some I had some stuff I wanted to keep track of that we had talked about in text messages for my characters. So that's what that is, so that I didn't have to write it all out again. I had like in session 1, just again, random names, things jotted down, nothing too crazy. But one of the problems that I'm coming up with in terms of this kind of note-taking is that information is all the same. It looks all the same when it's written down. And unless it's in like the very previous session, it's very hard to find information that you're looking for. Like that important name that you wrote down because you're like, oh, that's important. I should know what that is. So those are the types of things that I'm struggling with in these types of sessions. Here's one of my husband's sessions. And yeah, it's just random names and things. So I am looking into moving into a different notes, like a different way to take notes for as I'm actually in the campaign. I've seen a lot of people do things like have like a 3-ring binder that they use, and they can take like pages in and out of it and then move things around, shuffle information around to make it easier to keep track of things. And I think that would be helpful. So I am thinking about doing that and using some kind of 3-ring binder system for the rest of these campaigns. Because definitely the one we're doing with our friend is going to be probably at least another half year, maybe even longer. And I don't know how long our campaign with my husband's going to go, but it seems like we are, still going to be a bit before we complete it. But yeah, these are just messy notes for things going on. But it's currently okay, but I'm getting close to the end. I'm running out of pages here, so I have to come up with something else before the end of this notebook at least. And then I also just have pages that have some important information and notes on them. In my friend's campaign, there's like a very simple baseline poison system for one of my characters. And so this is just a list of all of those poisons. One of my characters has an important amulet that has extra things attached to it, so I make sure to keep that as a note. And these are the characters I'm playing in my friend's campaign, Quixie and Ezra. You'll see a photo of them in the notebook that I'm about to get to. But yeah, it's just this kind of system is obviously the basic kind of system, just writing down stuff as it happens and hoping that you'll remember where that information was. But I am looking into getting a more coherent system specifically for when we're actually playing the game, sitting down, playing the game, and I'm taking notes right there in the moment. Since it's been a little bit of a struggle to deal with notes this way currently. But yeah, I'll go ahead and show you the other journals that I have. So if you've seen any of my other videos, then you've definitely seen these 2 journals before because I've talked about them multiple times. This journal here is from Archer and Olive, and so is this one. I believe this one should currently be restocked on the website because this is from their 2024 Everyday collection. So as I'm filming this, and hopefully if I post it, it should still be available. It's called the Storybook Edition. And if it's available, I will definitely leave a link. I'm not sponsored or anything by Archer and Olive. I just really, really like their notebooks and their products. So this one is for my friend's campaign, and this one is for my husband's campaign. This one is not available currently. It's from an old sub box from last year, so I don't think you'd be able to get your hands on it, but hopefully they come up with more like soft cover journals in the future, and then I'll definitely recommend them if they do. So I'll just show you, let's see, which one should I start with? I guess since I want to also talk about my husband's D&D Dungeon Master, sorry, I forgot the word for a second, Dungeon Master journal, I'll do those like kind of simultaneously. And this one is for my friend, which was the 2 characters you saw earlier, Quixie and Ezra. I don't have too much going on with the nameplate. I never know what to do with these nameplates. I guess I could just put my own name in there. But this front page is where I'm probably going to put this, which is a map of the region that we're in right now. I'm blanking on if there's a name for this region or not, but this is the map of the current region we're in, that I took this photo with my camera from his notebook. So I want to put this in, and I might, if there's enough spaces, which there might be, I might just try to redraw it in here so that it's a little bit more accurate. But we'll see. I'll see if I can actually fit it in here. I'm not quite sure if it will fit or not. If not, I'll just paste the picture in here. But this is going to be for the map of the region that we're in. I just currently have it in the little back pocket. And then I have the characters that I play in this campaign up here in the front. Like I said, I'm still working on this one, so there's a lot of blank spots, but you'll see the vision. You'll see where I'm going with this. So my first character's name is Quixie Darkpatch. She's a rogue, and she's currently like a straight shoot rogue, like no changing classes, no adding class or anything like that. She's just a rogue. And we've got a lot of a lot of stuff going on. It's hard to talk about because this is the campaign we're through the most. We're on, like I said, session 26 or something like that. So there's been a lot that's happened to Quixie since the beginning, so it's a little bit difficult to discuss her as a character. But she's the youngest of this entire group. She's only just become an adult, and so she's still channeling her whiny teenagehood. So there's been like some problems that happened related to that. She also struggles with her connections with her family. Her family is a part of a criminal organization, and for many reasons, she's trying to remove herself from that. And yeah, she's currently just traveling with her buddies and going on adventures and trying to find out more about herself, essentially. Let's see. Right now we are currently level 8, but we were before, we started at level 3. So really just this page will just be like a little bit of information about her general stats and her class and everything. And then this will be a little bit of her backstory that I had for her before we started the campaign. And I might add a little extra notes of stuff that we've learned about her as we go along. These are her current stats, although they're not entirely correct because she didn't actually get hit at all. So in our last session, we did have several fights. We had 2 large fights back to back, but actually Quixie didn't really get hit at all, so she's fine. But yeah, adding in, that's just, general information about my character before we get into the actual notes. And then my second character I play for this campaign is Ezra. He is a green dragonborn. However, I don't know if you can tell by the photos, about the photos, I created them in Hero Forge. Like I created the design of the character in Hero Forge and then did an AI like screen over it to like have AI kind of make it a little bit more polishy-ish. They're not good, but I don't really need anything like professional or super nice looking. I just wanted a general visual of what the characters kind of look like. So that's why I'm using AI pictures. I'm sorry if that offends you at all, but to be honest, like these are just games I'm playing at home with my friends for fun. So yeah, that's why I use AI photos. I'm so sorry if it offends you. I don't really mean to. And at some point, like depending on how, at some point I would love to commission actual artwork of these characters. But currently that's just not in the cards for us in terms of financially or anything like that. So maybe, hopefully we'll get there eventually. Anyway, sorry about the ramble. This is Ezra. He's a green dragonborn, but if you see the picture a little bit, he has white scales. And that's a part of his like a mystery going on with him. His scales started changing color in his early teenhood, and before he knew it, all of his scales were white instead of green, and he was shunned from his clan because of that. And wandering around, he had a lot of stuff happen to him. He got kidnapped. He was almost sold. And then he was able to escape from that and then ends up in the church. The major church involved in our story is called the Quirkus. And there are 3 major gods involved with it, and he follows the god Kali, which is the goddess of mercy and apothecary. And that's why he is a life cleric. Yeah, all that to say he's a life cleric. And yeah, again, he's kind of on this journey to find, I guess, really he's on this current journey to learn more about himself. And we've got an important mission to collect the missing eyes of the goddesses because their eyes are missing. And so we are looking for them. And yeah, so that is Ezra. Absolutely love Ezra. He started out very blank slate, very difficult for me to figure out, get into the mindset of him, because Quixie is very much I pulled a lot of myself and put it into Quixie. She's very me. Sometimes we actually have to actually think about stuff that I say as Quixie, because sometimes it's just me it's just Ellie like saying something out loud and saying it's Quixie, but everybody's like, are you sure that's Quixie or is that you? And sometimes it is just me. But Ezra is a lot different. He's got a little bit of he's very calm, and not to say that I'm not calm, but he's very much like, I guess he's more, I don't even know the word. I don't know the word to say, but a lot of things he kind of brushes off, and he's very passive. I guess passive is the right word. He's very passive about his surroundings and things that happen to him and things that happen around him. And really the best way to get him to take action is if somebody needs his assistance. But other than that, he's very passive. And that's obviously a thing I'm working on with him as a character, that he's kind of growing as a person. Anyway, all of that, so long way to go talk about Ezra. I really love Ezra. I think he's a very, very fun character. And this is going to be the basic layout for my notes. It'll be a lot more clear in the next journal that I show, because this one I'm not even finished with session 1. But I start writing session 1. I name the sessions because once the session's over, I can get a feel for what the entire session was really about. So this one's just called Meeting. And I write down just general things that go on. I've written down in more bold letters the name of characters that pop up. In this case, it's just our main characters. Since I started this 1 second, I really toned down all of the combat that we go through, because having to write out all of combat, I'll show you in the next one, was too long, and that was a short combat. So I didn't want to have to write out every single instance of everything that happens in combat. It just would take way too long and take up way too much space. And whenever we move to a new location, I also do it in larger bold letters just to signal like, okay, we've moved to a new place. And obviously going back and looking at notes, if I knew we learned information at a certain area, it's a lot easier to find that information if it's more bold. I also wrote who's there, because sometimes not all of us are there at the same time. In this case, everybody is at a different place. So I wrote down who we're with when we go to each place. And like I said, this is not the end of the notes. I think they should take up at least the rest of this page. There's only about, I think, like 20 or 30 minutes left in the recording that I'm listening to for the session 1. So it should take up the rest of this page. I don't know if it'll go any further on to the next one, but it should just take up the rest of this page. And then in the ending pages for session 1, before I start for session 2, I'll write down kind of like the character's ending thoughts. So writing down notes about where the character currently is in their mindset, what they're thinking about, what's important to them. That'll help me move forward in the next session. It's not necessarily going to be helpful currently because, again, we are way further in. But when I catch up, it will definitely be helpful, because I want to then do the notes for the session very soon after the session is over, before the next session starts, so that those notes about where the character's mindset is, how they're thinking, what they know, what they understand, then that will help me in the next session to get back into their mindset pretty quickly, because I'll just have some notes ready to go to be like, okay, Quixie's thinking this, Ezra's thinking this is their mindset, this is how they think about this is what their next focus is, and that'll be very helpful moving forward. I'll do that at the end of this session, and I'll do it at the end of every session, and before I then move into session 2. Again, this one is very much just beginning, but that's my general layout for my friend's campaign. And then this one is my husband's campaign. This one has a little bit more pages complete. I wanted to finish and catch up in this one first, because it's just an easier drink. Like, there are only 5 or 6 sessions that I actually have to get down in this one before I'm completely caught up, as opposed to the 20 I have to do for the other one. So this is just a lot easier to catch up in. So that was and is my plan. Same deal, don't really have anything for the front page. This one, I start with my first character, Okumi. Okumi is a bard, because I wanted to try out a bard. She actually has a last name, and so does my next character, but I did not actually put it in. yet. This Okumi, she's a bard and she is a drow. Again, this is it's actually not where we're at currently, because currently we're level 8, so this is an old note sheet. But yeah, she has like dark purple skin, and it doesn't show on her little image. Did the same thing for these characters that I did for the other ones. I made a model of them in Hero Forge and then kind of put the AI screen over it and used it as like a way to kind of, I guess, soften it up a little bit, because I'm not a huge fan of how the Hero Forge character designs look. It's great for getting like really good like details in, but I don't really like the blockiness of it. I prefer them to look more smooth. So that's why I did that. Again, at some point, I hope I will be able to commission real artwork from an actual artist from them. But for now, that's just my placeholder artwork for it. My second character is Gen, and they are a druid. They are a tiefling and a druid. And they also have a long-term pet. Not really a familiar or anything, but they have a pet named Hermione, who's a badger. And her name is Hermione, and she is absolutely stacked. The DM, which is my husband, let me use the stats for a direwolf for Hermione, and so she's beastly. Like, she's fantastic. She's a badger, and she's awesome. And honestly, she does the second most damage of anybody on the team. There's another character who I believe he's a fighter or a barbarian. It's one of my friend's characters. And he does more damage, but Hermione does the second most damage of everybody on this team, which is super funny to me. But yeah, in this specific campaign, we are in this space called Drundle. It's a town, and the entire story so far has taken place in this one town. In my friend's campaign, we are traveling up and down and all around. Going back to the little map from the first one, we start out here in this little, in this town down in the south, and we travel up this way, we go back, and then we traveled up here through these mountains, and then we accidentally got stuck in the Feywilds for a little bit, and then we escaped the Feywilds, and then we went up here, which is where the magic school is, and now we're there in the magic school, and we've just been traveling everywhere. Our plan is also we have to go west to another place, and then I'm sure we'll have to go even more west to the coast at some point, so we are going to be traveling all over the map in my friend's campaign. But in this one, we are just currently sticking around in this town of Drundle because there is an increasingly interesting mystery going on in Drundle. And so our characters are just kind of stationed here, kind of ingraining themselves in the town, but slowly discovering that this town is really strange. So our original characters that we started with were Okumi, a character named Bukan, and a character named Ishmael. And Bukan and Ishmael are my friend's characters, and when we started for session 1, I was only playing as Okumi and not Gen just yet. So I'm taking notes throughout all of session 1, of course. It's actually quite long. It's several pages to go through session 1. You'll notice that the other one was a lot shorter. And then this is the actual end of session 1. I completely did it. In this case, I started actually writing down the initiative, and I started writing down all the actions that were taken in the initiative order. And in this case, there were only 2 rotations, like 2 turns for everyone. And even that was so long. It was like a page and a half of just 2 turns. And anyone who knows D&D combat knows that sometimes there are a lot of turns. So it just was not going to be feasible to keep track of all the turns like that. So I definitely condensed it, and we had another fight towards the end here in the soccer house. We did a fight here in the end, and you can see I kind of slightly did the turn order, but not completely, and I mostly just talked about what happened towards the end of combat and any important information that occurred and that we learned as we were fighting the stalker. in this specific session, I named this one the Stalker because we took on a quest that involved someone being stalked by a stalker, and we had to do some espionage and figure out like where this person lived and what was going on, in order to figure out who the stalker was and what they were doing. And when we found them, we incapacitated them, knocked them out, got them arrested, but there was still some strange things going on with the stalker. They were doing some weird things, they were rambling, and there was information about the important five, and that was, of course, part of a bigger mystery, which we haven't quite solved just yet. But because my husband's campaign is a lot more intrigue and a lot more mystery based, that's why there's just so many notes. This is also the one I started with, so it's also just, it's long. I'm gonna try to cut down on the details. I did a decent job, I think, with my friend's campaign on session 1, so I'm gonna try to implement that going forward for this one too. And same deal, I'm going to write down on this back end here where my character is mentally, what they're thinking about, how they want to proceed going forward, what's their current goal, is that goal changing, is that goal evolving, is there like a stack of goals that we're trying to get to, and what are the importance of those goals, just to get myself in that character's mindset. Because I am playing 4 characters and they're not all the same. They all have different motivations, different wants, different needs, and I want to make sure I start separating them out, because sometimes I tend to blur them, and I don't want to do that. I want them to actually be separate and on their own. In here, I think I have them, but I need smaller versions. So there is, my husband created a town map, which is this lovely thing, where we have like the town square and some of our important buildings I've marked off in the town of Drundle. And I wanted to put that in here so that I can have just a layout of the map. However, he created this on some format thing on the computer and then didn't save it. So I don't actually know if it still exists on the computer. I'll have to go look and see if I can find it so I can print a version that'll actually fit in this notebook. And there's no way I'm drawing all this out because this is a lot. So I have to try to see if I can find that. And at one point in the session, we went to, well, the other 2 characters went to a farm. And there's also a map of the farm on the outskirts of the town. So I wanted to put that in as well. But again, same issue with this other map. There's just, I don't know where they are on the computer. So I left a space for it. If I could find it, I want to put them in. So that's where these were going to go. And I have in the back here, because I wrote in bold letters all the important characters that we meet during the session, such as Mr. Rodden, Mixie was up here at one point, Juniper, Boro, Aleem, Cleo. These are, well, not Aleem, but Cleo, Boro, Mr. Rodden, Mixie, all of those are important characters that are going to continue to be important as we go along. And so my husband creates the characters in Hero Forge because he likes to use Hero Forge. And I'm just going to put the photos of them in, and I'm going to make sure I write down the name and the important information we know about them up to the current date. Again, if characters don't show up or are not important for the session that I am currently writing about, then I won't put them in the back, you know. But that way we can keep up with the important characters that we're supposed to remember about and the ones that we talk about. And if I go to the previous session and I'm looking for a character and they're not here, then that means we didn't learn anything new or significant about them in that session, and I can just flip back to the previous session to see where that information is on that character. So just trying to streamline it a little bit. And again, these notes and things are going to be they're for after a session is over. And I want to, once I catch up, I want to write down all my notes right after the session has finished, or at the very least in the next couple of days past the session finishing. That way it's caught up, it's relevant, it's current information. And I've already started session 2, which I'm calling Missing in Mystery, because in this session we get 2 new members. This is when I made the second character Gen, and also we get Del, who is my friend's second character, because we removed Buchan. And he now only uses Ishmael and Del. The reason he switched characters from Buchan to Del was because the way that Buchan was written was very much for a one-off, one-shot campaign, or not a campaign, a one-shot, which is what we originally were planning on doing when we did this first session. We planned to just do a one-shot, just to give our friend a break from DMing. But it ended up being super interesting and intriguing. We were like, oh, we can just pop in and keep playing and keep doing in between. That's why, of course, we only have 5 sessions of this one and 25 of the other one, because it's kind of an in-between rest session for our DM. And so that character just wasn't fit to be in a more long-running campaign. So he made a new one named Del, who's a better fit for the campaign. And I wanted to play 2 characters because I wanted to also try out another class. So I wanted to try out Druid. So that's why I added Gen as well. And this session's called Missing in Mystery, because instead of just throwing Buchan out of the campaign completely and pretending he never existed, actually in the campaign for the first half of this session, we actually are looking for Buchan because he went missing. I guess we could have ignored it, because in the story he kind of got up out of bed in the middle of the night, walked out, and people have seen him kind of, but nobody really knows where he went. But we actually take a lot of time to look for him and find out where he went, and it was really fun, really interesting. And that's currently all I have right now. Again, I'm just gonna keep checking up, keep updating, and making sure I catch up eventually. But I do want to show you my husband's journal. I want to make sure I get the right pages, because I don't want to look at something I'm not supposed to look at. So this is my husband's journal. There's a lot of notes in the beginning. Actually, this notebook is also an Archer and Olive notebook, by the way. It's from a very old sub box, the winter one of 2022 or something like that. A very old one. And it has lines. It's a lined notebook. So one of the reasons why I didn't really know what to do with it is because it was lined, but lined works great for my husband, so he has enjoyed using it. He takes notes about important things. In the beginning here, there's a lot of story stuff going on, so I'm not allowed to look at it, but he has tons of notes here in the beginning that are all about the story and the world that he's built. And this one is just one of the, this is a box of magical rings, and he's writing down information about, how the ring box works and everything. We've already used the ring box, so I'm allowed to show you this page of notes, but I can't turn it and show you what each ring does, because he's also written down what each ring does. But we had this in session 4 and session 4.5. I say it's 4.5 because it was a very long battle in the home of the mayor of the town, where it was all night long. It was a continuous long collection of multiple fights, and so we had the box of rings that we were allowed to use during that long running fight in that session. And when we get to that session, it should be exciting when I write it down, because that was a lot of fun. And I'm allowed to show you these, which are the, monsters, creatures, people that we fight. And he keeps all of the information in here for himself to use when we actually get into a specific section. He has notes on all the characters that he's created also, but I'm not allowed to look at those because, some of them have secrets and information that I'm not allowed to know yet. We did fight a Minotaur at one point. We actually fight a Minotaur in session 2. So the vermin are these absolutely disgusting, they're not described on this because this is just a general thing from, I think, D&D Beyond or something like that. But the vermin are absolutely disgusting. They are these armadillo cockroaches with like hair growing out of, like, if you've seen an armadillo, you know they curl up into balls. In between the little like pieces where the shell curls in and like flakes out, there's like hair growing out of that space, and they're cockroaches, and they're huge. They're the size of a small like 10-pound dog. Absolutely horrendous. Hate it. We haven't actually, well, we did fight them. We fought them in the fight with the stalker guy, with Mr. But we try not to fight them because they're absolutely disgusting. Some more characters, like these are for some NPCs in the town, like nobles and commoners, more NPCs. Writing down who fits this description. In this case, Juniper, one of the characters we've met last time, and Aleem, also a character we met last time, fit the commoner description. Let's see if I can find, I have a photo of Juniper. There's Juniper and Aleem, who were characters we met in the first session. Aleem definitely is probably not coming back. I just like Juniper as a character, but I don't think we'll talk to him much again. The bandit captain that we fought in the mansion, bandits that we fought in the mansion during that really long running fight, the magical veteran and a regular veteran, and the stalker, which was for Mr. that we fought in the first session, and a general regular thug. The stalker, again, was a part of a much larger story. We fought him in his house, so he got advantage on stealth, but we kind of we did a pretty good job fighting him. We did pretty good, and we incapacitated him, didn't kill him. He's currently in jail and not doing so well, but we'll probably run into him again for story-based reasons. But yeah, he's got all this information in here, all the stuff ready to go, so he's always ready to do like a little session if our regular DM just decides that he's not feeling it that week. And so that's all good. He's a very, he got really excited about the idea of running a campaign and then just filled this notebook with a bunch of notes, and then obviously takes notes as we go along. But it's just really impressive that he created this in like a couple days. Again, can't look at the whole thing, but I think you get the gist of how much dedication he put into it. So yeah, just working on my own. Not quite sure how. I feel like a little bad because, again, these are not up. They're not completely up to date. But at some point when I do catch up, I will maybe do like a short or like another video discussing all of the notes and all of the catch up. But the way I've like laid it out for you is how I'm just going to use these journals and how I'm going to be writing in the journals from now on. Just doing post-session important notes, honestly, for a couple of reasons: to keep track of the story for when we continue playing, and also I think it will be really fun later on in life when our campaign is long over and we've already played and we've had a good time, to have these notes that I could just go back and reminisce about, because I'm that kind of person. I like to go back and reminisce about stuff. It's why I have so many journals and why I keep so many. But yeah, those are my D&D journals, and the way I'm setting them up and the way that I'm keeping track of my D&D notes. Also, if I start, which I might do, again, it's something that I'm looking into. If I find another way to do my regular, normal kind of notes, I'll definitely fill you in, especially if it's in like a notebook format. Like I said, this is a lot. And it's just hard to keep track of where the important information actually is and what we're supposed to, keep around. I also would like an easier way to keep track of spells, because with my character Quixie from the regular campaign, she's a rogue, so she doesn't have many spells. And the ones she does have, she has minor illusion because she's a psionic rogue. So she's got like a couple of things, but not really any like spells. She has a cantrip and that's it. But my character Ezra is a cleric. He has lots of spells. And And I have ones that are go-to and ones that I always have and ones that I use constantly, so I always have them ready. So I want to make sure that I keep them up because sometimes I legitimately forget exactly how they roll and what they do and all that. So having another place where I can easily like pull a card out or pull something that just has that information ready to go is another thing I'm trying to like figure out how to do. And I think a binder would be also really helpful for that. Same deal with my two characters, Okumi and Gen. Both of them are like casters of some kind. Like Gen is a druid, so they use spells constantly. The other thing that Gen does is wild shape, so keeping track of the animals that they can turn into, also definitely needed. And Okumi is a bard, and she also has lots of spells. In fact, spells are pretty much the only thing she could do well. She's not very good at actually physically fighting, so keeping track of those is definitely my next priority in terms of my regular daily notes. While we're in the campaign, I want a quick, fast way to pull those out and have them ready to go. So that's what I'm currently working on. And hopefully I find a solution for that really soon. I'm sure I'll get some interesting and good recommendations. You guys come through with the recommendations like all the time. Like, it's actually fantastic. I've gotten so many good ideas and so many good like feedback stuff about some of the things I do, like about some of the ideas I could try for journaling, about some of the ways to store like washi tapes and the ways to keep like stickers. Amazing. I really appreciate you guys and all of your really great feedback. So yeah, I mean, keep it coming. If you're going to keep giving great advice, I will keep gladly taking it. So thanks everybody for watching. I hope this was at least interesting to someone and if possible, helpful to someone who was also planning on doing a kind of like longer form, more story-ish D&D type journal instead of one to just use while you're in your campaign. And yeah, I hope you had a good time watching either way. Thanks for sticking around. If you made it to the end of the video, I really appreciate it. And I'll see you next time. Bye!